Hey guys, what's going on? Sunday, May 7th, 2023. So I'm gonna start using my phone to do videos again because it really does take me extra time to make it so nice and pretty and put it on YouTube. Um, I think it's more important for me to share my thoughts on some of the topics. So I'm gonna make it a commitment to myself. Let's just put it this way: a commitment to myself. I'm not gonna be make it so grand and big and make a commitment to all of you, but let's just kind of make the commitment to myself that I'm gonna make one video each day for the next 30 days and see how it goes. So let's talk about self-love. This has been a topic. It's not just a topic, but this is something fundamentally so important for me, which is the theme, right? The theme that I have to personally to figure out. Let's just use the term figure out. What is self-love? People talk about it all the time. Does it mean that I'm going to give myself a hug every day? What is it? Self-love is actually very intrinsic quality. Self-love is not something that that you are able to experience from the outside world. In other words, how can I attain self-love? At least this is coming from my personal experience. So please, I'm not a guru. So just understand that I'm doing these videos just to share my thought process, my journey, my own understanding. Doesn't mean that this is end all be all. No. Please understand my intention of all these videos is just to share my journey with you. I remember when I heard about this term self-love, it's just so like, I remember my first reaction when I heard that term. I was like, man, people are fucking conceited. Because I really didn't understand that. I couldn't really comprehend. I understand how it's spelled, right? SELF, hyphenate freaking love. Like, but what does that mean? Like, how? What am I supposed to feel? How does that feel when we have self-love? It was so confusing. I mean, for the longest time, it was so confusing. It's not because I don't know how to spell the word. And not only even with the definition of it. People trying to explain, there are different teachers trying to explain all kinds of books who are trying to tell you how to, to give self-love. What does that mean? Self-love has to come from within, to know who you are, to know you have to have the self-worthiness in order for you to be able to show or to receive the self-love that you give it to yourself. So without the full understanding of your own self, you really cannot give yourself self-love. Is it too confusing? Let me tell you, this is the reason why for years I really have a hard time to fully grasp of this, because I was constantly trying to think, to reason with this term, to understand, and trying to use the mental faculty to understand that. I'm like, how, what, and how do I know if I really giving myself self-love, like, or not? How the fuck would I know? Well, speaking from a person who never received love, who doesn't know what love is, and let alone just to talk about in general, the broad term of love, and then now you have to add on to like self-love, I don't even know love itself, and then now I have to add on like self-love, But anyways, so why I have to talk about this? Because without taking the time to even just to take the time to ponder on this, we will never get close to it. because it's always a one gigantic avoidance that will stay the fuck away as far as we could, because that's usually how we all approach to something that we don't know. We'll walk away from it. If you think about it, think about how many things happen in our world right now that we are not comfortable or not familiar with. We tend to use the same tactic as to walk away from it because I don't have time for it. I don't have the brain cells for it. And that's a common practice. This is a learned behavior. We all do that. Something that's unfamiliar, something that makes us very uncomfortable inadvertently to make us feel very fearful because we don't know, right? Unknowns make us feel very fearful. That's how we are conditioned to be like, reactive, right? So love, like, what the heck is love? And so for me, it's frustrating because I always want to be able to understand on the deeper level of everything, but because not being shown by my caregivers, right? Speaking of my parents, my family, everybody's very dysfunctional. Everybody has their own definition of love, my love for you is like getting you all kinds of, things that you need in life, the basic needs. That's love. That's one way to show love to your loved ones, which is very common practice as well to a lot of folks who are very struggling and trying to provide everything to their own family members, especially their own children. Now, in my case, it's, it's no different from many of you. So not knowing what love is, you have no gauge. There's no point of reference. The only point of reference is always the dysfunctionality. Very dysfunctional family environment and people and behavior. And so you have to break that barrier and shatter the belief system first, right? What you have learned, you have to unlearn everything before you even talk about relearning something new, because otherwise it won't go into your subconscious. Your subconscious will be just rejecting it constantly. It's just butt-headed. So I think for years, for me to think about like, well, how can I love myself? What does that mean? How should I feel when I love myself, when I have self-love? I couldn't do anything until I started to look at the lack mentality of myself. The not good enough, right? So going back to the self-worthiness. Now that part is huge because I have to figure out my self-worthiness before I even talk about self-love. Man, I think I stalled this whole process for even longer time. I just push it away to the back burner because to think about self-love is very draining. It's very tiring because I couldn't fucking figure it out. To find out that to know how to be able to give self-love to myself, I have to understand my self-worthiness, and I feel like shit about myself because I never have my self-confidence. I never be reinforced with something that's more positive about myself. Everything that I've done, all the decisions that I make, it's completely against my family values, what I was taught. And what I was told that I was just a black sheep. Everything I do, it's just not in the traditional sense. I don't fit in. I don't fit in the box. I never fit in the box. So that part of soul searching, going into the self-worthiness, forget about it. I'm not going anywhere. It's just wasting my fucking time. I remember for the longest time, I feel very frustrated. I feel even more angrier when I try to go to that direction. And so I remember how resistant I was to go to it. I don't know how you feel about it, but seriously, to think about self-worthiness, I got negative. It's not even just zero, it's negative. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. It's just because you're constantly being reminded of that you're not good enough. And you fuck it up. You fucked that up. You just all fucked up. You're just all defective. You're just all fucking broken. You're fucked. Without the direct, very harsh, bluntly in your face, your self-interpretation, the internalization, it's has done enough damage since I was a child. That has been done for a long time. And so how can I shake things up? It's just so solidified that I just felt like, no, let's just play it exactly like everybody else. I forget about self-worthiness. And not until really recent time. I mean, when I say recent time, I'm talking about, gosh, it's almost like, let me tell you how I feel about when it comes to self-worthiness. I know it sounds really wild. I could not even come closer to the self-worthiness until I really make a decision to remove myself from everybody, including my ex-wife. At the time, we're still together, right, on the paper. But I walked away because I could not even gain a perspective, have the space up here, because you're constantly being reminded in a certain role in the relationship, in the dynamic at home. So therefore, to break that thought pattern is almost impossible, because everything is so fixated in your subconscious, and you are constantly being reminded of, if you are a spouse, if you are a daughter, if you are a mom, or you should do all this. When you have those values and belief systems in place, and you are daily reminded of all those values, you just are not going anywhere. In order for your mind to be able to have the breathing room, I'm not talking about the subconscious, just in general. We're constantly being stimulated by things around us and people in the relationships, working relationships, home relationships. You are constantly being reminded of what you're supposed to do based upon what you've been told. And that belief system stays. So it wasn't until I truly removed myself from the environment, to start it, to really be willing to take a little baby step to look at self-worthiness. Because when you're not being with somebody that you call the spouse, is somebody supposed to be your partner, right, in life, partner in crime, right? How often that we will look at our worthiness when you have somebody next to you, especially if you're married, to evaluate your worthiness based upon how good of a job that you do as a spouse, as a partner, as a boyfriend, girlfriend, as a daughter, as a son, as a father, as a mother, and so forth. We are constantly doing this like self-check to go reference point back to our labels. So it's very unfortunate that our labels are constantly becoming the reminder and a role model, or like a spec sheet, right? Specification. These are the qualities you must have in order for you to be able to be worthy, that you're doing a good job for that role. But because we are being trained to identify ourselves with those labels, therefore we just cannot figure out the true self-worthiness. Because no matter what you are referring back to, you're referring back to a label. So that's not your true self-worthiness to start with. You're looking at the wrong spot to find the right answers. That means you will never find the right answers. So going back to the troubleshooting 101, you have to look at the real problem, the root cause of the problem, before you can troubleshoot and figure out a solution or solutions. So again, you see how difficult it is to even just to be able to identify what I'm looking at. Am I looking at the right place to find out the root cause of the problem? So that piece, I remember for the longest time, even though I was removing myself away from the environment, I thought that, hey, that's at least the step one, clear my head. But no, I was still very much got fixated onto the labels. Even though I wasn't in the environment, I still very much conditioned to think about, as a daughter, what have I done? I let my parents down, I let my family down because I'm doing all this, and that, and nobody's really happy with my decision making, and they just think that I'm just gonna be a failure no matter how much of accomplishments I have created for myself. It doesn't matter, right? My whole life has been the same theme. It's because I have to live up to people's expectations, especially my family, right? Whether I'm close to them or not, it doesn't matter. As a child, everybody, if you think about whether you have families or not, if you don't have families, you're growing up in an orphanage, you really want to find your real biological family, if there's a possibility, because we are always yearning and longing for knowing, finding out our roots. But at the same time, because of that, we're still stuck on the labels and the societal expectation. Even how we perceive our parents, they're still labels, right? So that means I have an expectation for my parents should be doing all this on the list. If they're not doing it, they're not good enough. I do the same thing to other people. Think about it. Think about how ingrained in our head that we trying to see people's worthiness or give our editorial comments and opinions about people's worthiness and trying to shovel that into people's throat, right? So as much as I'm talking about like how I try to see my own self-worth, unfortunately, the other direction, I also have done too many rounds, countless of expectations, and have the spec sheets for my father, my mom, or everybody else in my life that I came across. I used the same approach unfairly towards them. So how can we break that pattern? Is to break completely, entirely, stop evaluating other people or yourself with those labels. This is fundamentally important, guys. I don't even know. We cannot begin to think about or talk about self-love or anything else without seeing this is fundamentally the root cause of the problem. Stop identifying ourselves with labels. Once you're able to remove that piece, whether it's how people see yourself or how you see other people, once you're able to break that, now you can talk about self-worthiness. And because you're starting to realize at that point, yeah, I'm not just a spec sheet. I am a beautiful soul in the eyes of the Creator, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the collective, the higher consciousness, right? The universe, the divine, right? Part of that energy is completely pure, creating this virtual reality or matrix, whatever you're calling this, holographic projections. It's all talk about the same thing, right? What we're doing here, what you're seeing, watching this video, you're in your body, you're home, you're driving your car, you're listening to this, you're going to work, you think about your kids, you're thinking about your grand project, everything that we're doing, everything we plan to do, all those amazing creativity. Still, everything that we're experiencing here is not permanent. It wasn't meant to be permanent. If you're gonna participate in a movie or in a play, you are playing a role. You're playing the character. The character is created by a creator who wrote the stories and gave you the scripts, and then you just follow the scripts and play your role. It's not permanent. It wasn't meant to be permanent. And so, again, to understand that we are not the role that we're playing. I am who I am. I chose to pick this particular part and play this part in a movie, in a play. That's it. At the end of the play, I'm who I am. I'm not gonna suck into the character and thinking that I'm the character, although a lot of actors would tend to take a little bit extra time, depending on how long the production will be. They tend to suck into the character, they become the character. Then it took them a while to pull themselves out of the character, right? We tend to get sucked into the character. That's what I'm trying to say. So the labels is very dangerous because the labels have been in place for years. I mean, you talk about eons of the existence of this reality that we have been, for some reason, got sucked into the roles from the earlier of human existence time to now. We are conditioned to it because we hold those memories in our DNA, right? You think about, like, there are a lot of memories can be passed down to generations, so we just hold on to a lot of memories from our ancestors on a ancestral family tree, right? So think about how many pieces of memories are passed down to us for how long, and countless. I don't even know. I don't want to know. But just understand that to break the pattern, it's critical. And so that we can truly have the opportunity to see who we are, to remember who we are with the fresh eyes for the first time. And from there, to recognize our worthiness. There's no numbers or dollar sign can surmount that, because we cannot be defined. Our worthiness cannot be defined by anything earthy, right? In this earth realm, in this reality. So that's fundamentally important. Without being able to fully grasp on who we are, what we are, completely independent from what we do. So again, labels, right? I'm not a doctor. So let's just say that doctors usually say, oh yeah, I'm a doctor, right? Medical doctor. No, you're a beautiful soul that is doing some amazing work in saving people's lives, keeping people healthy, for example, as a profession. But because the way we form sentences, especially in English, right, even in other languages, we tend to do that, like, hey, I'm a doctor. No, you're not a doctor. Your profession is a doctor, but you are not a doctor. But when we keep on brainwashing and then convincing ourselves we are what we do, then we will have a hard time to get that label off of you. We become the label, and we actually make sure we are going to be the label. We just reinforce that piece on a regular basis. So to kick that one out of the system is very difficult. If you pay attention to how we talk, how we introduce ourselves, how we talk, how we reaffirm on something that's actually not true, it's quite dangerous to look at how we behave based on what we think and how we talk. Words always have a lot of power, and when our subconscious is fully, taking in all into our subconscious mind to create a false narrative, and then we believe in that false narrative that we create for ourselves, then that's it. You're constantly operating in a false persona. Something is not completely truthful. You got a bits and pieces of the truth here and there, but it's not the whole truth. So then everything that we do, everything that we understood is very much discounted, it's very much tainted in our perception. So again, first step, even though I talk about self-love, before you even get there, we have to talk about self-worthiness. And where is that coming from? It's coming from releasing and letting go of your labeling, right? Stop identifying yourself with labels. So that's the most important first step know who you are, once you're able to know who you are, then you are completely on track, of your own worthiness. And from there, it will be much easier to talk about self-love, because that comes naturally when you truly know and remember who you are. It's kind of funny to say this. It's very effortless. So where I got stuck on was because I was so stuck on identifying myself with what I do, who I am, according to my family, according to my peers, my friends, and then the society, right? As a whole, as a collective. Therefore, I got stuck on. It seems like such a huge force of resistance. But once you're able to break that one, self-love, it's like a BOGO, buy one, get one free. So I hope that this is not too confusing. Definitely, you are amazing, beautiful soul, that we're all connected. This is a temporary vessel that will become biodegradable, because it is biodegradable in this reality on the earthy realm. But who we truly are in the essence, it's infinite. It's the infinity, right? It lives forever. It cannot be destroyed, because the energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed and transmuted, right? That's why when we kick our bucket, this will decay and will, go back to the earth, right? You're part of the earth. You going back to the earth. It's biodegradable. We're biodegradable. The shell, the body, but the soul, the essence of us, it's infinite. Being part of the infinite.